All right, my name is Matthew Kemps. I'm the co-founder of Lone Wolf Realty Group at EXP Realty, and we have
Matt Kirschling with Gold Star Mortgage.
and our guest today.
Trevor Loveless with EXP Realty. Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
Absolutely. So, Trevor, let's just start off with who's Trevor. Give us some background. How'd you get into real estate? What are you doing now? And some key points that you want to highlight.
Absolutely. So, like I said, Trevor Loveless, been in the business for 10 years. Got in because my dad has been in for 50 years, so always saw the flexibility that he had with his schedule, making great money, and just really being able to live his daily life, be present in my life, be present coaching sports teams. So I always thought, wow, that sounds like the best career ever.
Sure.
Of course, when you get in, you realize you're pretty much the CEO of a business when you hadn't been a CEO ever before.
Yep.
So I'm 33 now, been in since I was 23, and I've learned a lot through the process for sure.
Nice. So you're here in Austin, and originally Silicon Valley. We talked a little bit about it, but I want to get it on film. So you're here because there's a big development, or can you unpack that again for us?
Absolutely. So my partners and I, we are currently taking advantage of that new home initiative, the 3-to-a-lot model in Austin, which of course Austin is starving for more density and more housing. So they're very developer friendly, and they're doing everything they can to incentivize developers to build more units. So currently we have 64 houses in production. We just unlocked another 9 lots over on the east side. And our intentions are to build 300 by the end of next year. So we're making a dent in that housing supply for sure.
Nice. And you said this was a friend or family member of yours that is taking advantage of this, and you're going to be the one to sell them?
Yeah, so we're all partners. There's one guy, his name's David. He's really the mastermind behind all of it. Brilliant guy, one of my mentors, someone I look up to. But we've known each other for 10 years. We actually met through a apartment deal that he sent me a buyer letter looking for an investment, and got pretty lucky and ended up putting a $5 million 19-unit deal together back in 2014. And he was 30 years old, made $1 million. So, of course, we became pretty good friends after that, and that's continued to grow. And here we are in Austin.
Nice. And so, David, I mean, does he have a similar background as you, or, you just met him and just hit it off?
Yeah, so his background is lending. He's done, $700 million of loan origination volume on the lending side, but also, $100 million in real estate investments, development, dispositions. So brilliant guy, kind of been all around. He's one of the most brilliant deal makers I've ever seen. So it's great to be able to have him to get creative, especially here in Austin, when we have so much product, and we're aiming a lot of that towards investors and being able to do build to suit and creative financing and things of that nature.
So kind of walk us through on a first grade level to those who might be interested out watching. Walk us through kind of what the structure of these deals look like. So someone who is interested, maybe wants to get into the first one or second one, how they actually go about these.
Absolutely. So there's kind of a couple different ways that you can structure them, and it really depends on the investor profile. But for example, bonus depreciation is a really attractive piece for, say, somebody who's a real estate professional or can qualify as a real estate professional. And ultimately, what they would do is if they have a large tax liability, they would come in, they would qualify for the loan on first position. So they would be basically purchasing the property, go to the bank, get a loan, and then we would carry the debt on second position, and then bank finance the rest. So there's ways that you can get really creative with getting the debt off of our books, but also making it attractive for an investor who's coming in with maybe they don't have $700,000 to put down. They can come in, put 10% down. We carry the other 10%, bank finances the other 80%. And that's been really attractive for a lot of investors.
You're talking more on the commercial lending side?
No, for single family.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
So, they're coming in, they're hiring an Airbnb operator that comes in. But I know that's not first grade level, but that's kind of where it gets into the nitty gritty of structuring debt. And obviously if somebody has an investor, then they can bring it up as a conversation and learn more.
So you got plenty of experience on the investment side of things, and kind of sounds like that's where your career kind of, I want to say, pivoted or took off from. If someone was just trying to get into the investing standpoint, what would you say their first start should be? As an agent trying to represent investors.
As an agent trying to represent investors, of course, partnering with a lender is like the first case scenario because you want to be able to understand the debt. You want to know what mortgage insurance, what everything is, all the implications are going to be because just saying, hey, what's my monthly payment going to be and talking to a lender, there's so many other variables that are included in that. So I really think like finding what your investment profile is, whether you want to be the operator, whether you want to hire someone as an operator, all these like preliminary decisions are really important. Everybody has a different appetite. Some people say, hey, I just want to get my money working for me. Obviously, 90% of millionaires are made through real estate. So I think we know so many conversations we have with people, oh, I just want to get an investment, or what should I be doing with my money? And obviously, getting into real estate and being able to build out a portfolio long term is a goal for, I think, a majority of people. But just getting started is really difficult because it just sounds so daunting. Or if you don't know much about real estate, you really need to have an advisor that you trust. So that's probably the biggest thing is everybody wants to start, but they don't know how to start. And so it's getting a lender you trust, locating the area, whether you want to be local to where you are living or whether you want to start sharpening the pencil on some other areas. But obviously, out-of-state investing has become so popular that now it's harder to find those deals.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No.
And okay, in regards to business development, where you're finding these clients, how, like we got the story in the first one with David. How are you finding other clients?
Great question. So a little bit about my background. So I've been in for 10 years. When I got in, I saw my dad crushing it. And this was like 2015. We're in Silicon Valley. You're talking, $2.9, $3 million price point, very commonly. And so I was thinking, hey, all you got to do is sell a couple of those a year. But
Yeah.
when you're fresh into the business and you're 24 and you think I'm sitting in an open house and you have some of the smartest people on the entire planet walking into these open houses, it's like you really got to separate yourself and know everything about your market. You have to know every house. You've got to provide that value. So it really comes down to being able to provide value that is not accessible on the internet. And obviously, back in the day, you needed an agent because they were the ones that knew what properties were available. They knew they were pretty much the gatekeeper to all these properties. Now you have these buyers that have Zillow. They often know more than you do about a specific subdivision because they're looking in a school district and they're hyper focused on this one neighborhood. So in order to get clients, I was doing cold calling, door knocking, flyer dropping, like everything I possibly could because I asked my dad, hey, how do you get business? Well, he had been in it for 50 years. So his phone rings when the phone rings. And for me, it's like, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Like he didn't have enough business to go and give me. So I was around a bunch of agents that were older and working by referral. And so I joined a younger age company myself. And that's when I learned to really like go out and get the business myself, which was the best thing that ever happened for me.
Well, that's super refreshing to hear. It's not just, all right, I'm going to wait, see what happens. And that's just the kind of the agent that I see who's absolutely struggling right now is those that are just waiting for the opportunities to be presented to them and not going out and trying to find where that business comes from. So I really appreciate that.
Anything specific that you basically said you needed to provide the value by knowing the neighborhoods, knowing all of those things. Is there anything specific that you did that stands out more than anything else as far as generating new business?
I mean, really, when you're door knocking, you're flyer dropping in, say, it's smart to take on about 1,000 home farm. So each neighborhood back where I'm from was about 250 to 300 homes. And when you're having these conversations with people, it's not about, hey, do you want to sell your house?
Right.
It's about providing a wealth of information for them and just creating that personable environment of just they feel comfortable coming and talking to you. They know you're an agent. They know you're in real estate. They know obviously you want to buy or sell, but it's about just having those organic conversations of, hey, I'm not here to bother you, but here's some relevant information. Everybody wants to know what's selling around them, but no one wants to be, berated to sell their home right away, especially in the higher price points, luxury areas. I mean, learning in that market was instrumental to my development as a real estate agent, because you have to be so creative and strategic, and everybody has their guard down. So you're door knocking $3, $4, $5 million houses, and if somebody says, "Hey, what'd that house down the street sell for?" or "I saw it come off the market," I mean, that information might not be readily available, but you have to be able to be on broker tour, have those relationships with the agents where they feel comfortable telling you certain data points that might not be accessible to just looking it up on Zillow. So it's really about just always having the best interest in mind, and being just that wealth of information that anybody might ask. They might ask you, you know, how many bedrooms were upstairs, or how big was that lot? I mean, there's so many particulars about a house that anybody can ask you, and you have to know them all.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I like the flyer dropping idea and the way that you describe it, because, you know, when you talk about door knocking to a typical agent, I mean, that's like their absolute worst fear, and it's like the cringiest thing in the world. And to your point, you're dropping off a flyer with information about the neighborhood, and I'd like to get your kind of opinion. Do you feel like when you're dropping it off that there's kind of almost like a takeaway where you're like, "Hey, I'm just giving you this information, okay, bye," and people are like, wait, real quick?
Yeah, you know, flyer dropping is obviously the less daunting path of least resistance. It's obviously a lot less.
Objective handling.
It's less. I mean, well, it's just going to be a longer path to success, because you're having less face-to-face conversations. Right. And when you're flyer dropping, you're providing the information, but people are probably going to pick it up, and they'll see your name, which is the important part. But if you are not doing open houses in the area, they're seeing your signs every single weekend, you're selling in that area, just seeing a flyer probably isn't going to have that large of an impact. But when you're having these face-to-face conversations with people, and they understand that you're just unassuming, you're not trying to just go after their business right away, but you're just, you know, going about your day, and you're doing your job just like they do their job. It just happens to be in a different form of work. So yeah, I would say I started off flyer dropping because it was one of those things where, I mean, I like cold calling, but being out in the field, you never know what's going to happen. And the deals that I got were the deals where I was even flyer dropping like face to face with somebody, and you could actually like show them what kind of person you were. Versus door knocking is a very creative art, and I've seen people be very successful with it. But yeah, starting out, very daunting.
Right. Well, and I like the idea. I don't see enough agents doing the like farming activities that you're talking about. You know, they're basically like willing to go anywhere. They'll drive anywhere, but they don't seem to really hone in on a specific neighborhood. And it's refreshing to kind of hear you make mention of it, because I don't hear enough of it. I'm not saying it's not done. It's just not done enough. How did you decide, outside of price point, you know, what was the area you were going for with the open houses and everything along those lines?
Absolutely. So I did the neighborhood that I grew up in, because I knew every street and I knew a lot of the neighbors that were there. So that was like a comfortable point. And then I went on, and any title rep can give you this information, and there's tons of tools, but you basically look at turnover ratio. And so when I was starting out back in Silicon Valley, I mean, a low turnover ratio is like 2.5%, which is like egregiously low, because no one sells, because you have a ton of people that come in. They buy their house for $500K. They put $1 million into it. Now it's worth $4.5 million, and you're going to have $1.5 million tax gain that you're going to be paying Uncle Sam on. So just people just buy and hold. They just buy and hold.
Right.
But if you're over, like, say 5%, that means, you know, every 100 doors you knock on, there's going to be 5 sellers in there, and probably 3 are going to have an agent and 2 aren't. So I would look at, I would flyer drop in Palo Alto, which is where I grew up. And then Mountain View, which is just one city over, that I just saw a lot of deals happening, and a lot of the homes in the neighborhood I was door knocking, flyer dropping in, were like more rundown fixer-uppers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the decision making process.
Exactly.
There wasn't like a line that you drew and said, "Here's where it's going to be."
Oh yeah, you draw the line.
Got it.
It's by neighborhood,
and then you're just going out of your way to talk to other agents that have listings to do their open houses if you can. And did you find that? I'm trying to figure out a good way to ask this. So did you find that like people in the neighborhood, obviously you mentioned seeing your name, seeing your face, seeing you at the open houses and everything along those lines, how long did it take until you really became like the mayor of that area?
It takes about 18 months.
Okay.
And
how often were you doing it?
I would do 1,000 homes every 2 weeks. So that would take about, I would say 3 days every 2 weeks. And you can build it around your schedule, but you need to be consistent with it. It needs to be in your schedule because it's not something that, of course, is fun to do. But once you start seeing the traction and the development of the work you're putting in over a 1.5 year period, that's what makes it fun. And it really comes down to just the sweat equity portion. When you're starting out, it's, you're probably going to do a couple of deals your first year if you're lucky. So you have to find ways to get creative and get your name out there. And obviously flyer dropping is, if you have an office that has a printer, it's technically free. But if you're sending out postcards, it's going to be 50 cents a postcard. You're talking $500 every 2 weeks. I mean, that adds up quickly. And, that's why I went that route.
What was the traction when you mentioned traction? Like, you said you saw it? What was an example of that? Like, was it somebody that you talked to when you were flyer dropping that walked into an open house? Was it like seeing someone at the grocery store? Like, what did that look like?
It's funny. So one of the first deals I got was in a neighborhood in Palo Alto, and the guy was in like a $3.5 million house, but he's like, "Oh, you seem like a good guy. I actually have a condo in Mountain View." It was a $700,000 condo, but of course I was open to selling it.
Sure.
And ended up building out a great relationship with him. He referred me 3 other deals of houses in his neighborhood. So it was just, sometimes it's just little stepping stones in order to get that momentum going. And just like going out and getting deals is difficult, like especially back there. So just any deals you can get to get the momentum going. I mean, even if you're doing like a deal a month there, you're doing well. So I know in Austin it's a little different. You have people doing 100, 150 transactions, but there, I mean, a deal a month is good. But the challenge is then it's hard to gain consistency and momentum when you're doing one deal a month.
Yeah.
Versus here, you're talking to so many more people. So love Austin, but it's just a different market.
I can say we're told. It's really refreshing to hear you talk about the door knocking portion. I'm guilty. I haven't done that much.
Yeah.
I do a shitload on the phone though. So like I've been very much recently a lot of circle prospecting. So basically what you're doing, I like the idea of being in front of people, hearing your perspective on it though. So for me, it's been like calling. Let's say I had a listing in Cimarron Hills, which is up in Georgetown, golf course community. Hey, recently sold a property at 107 Birchstone. Do you know what that property sold for? Guy would respond with, "No, I have no fucking clue what it sold for." And I respond with, "Okay, well, I actually sold for 1.25. We were listed at 1.3, and sellers were super happy with it. That was actually the price point we needed to get. We had 5 additional buyers in that property that wanted to transact. It just wasn't a perfect house for them, but I do have 5 other buyers. Who else do you know in the neighborhood who's considering selling?" Then I'm getting referrals that way. Because again, back to your point, it's not my first rodeo in that neighborhood. I've sold 15 different homes in that neighborhood. They've seen my signs up. They've seen me there. They see me present on a different perspective of it. I do like the idea of walking, knocking on doors though in that neighborhood. It's probably something I might start doing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I also want agents who are listening to this podcast to shed light on the fact that for those that are starting out and this is new to them, how he asked, who else do you know that's selling in the neighborhood? Instead of, hey, have you considered selling? Because the conversation's always going to get there. But if you just put the perspective on somebody else, I always say, hey, do you know someone who's looking to move in the next 6 months?
Right.
Like if you go directly for their business, they're going to have
a guard up. Yeah.
Just like if you're in Nordstrom's, you're obviously there buying something. But if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, do you need help? Oh, no, I'm just looking. Same perspective.
Yeah, totally.
And then to get to that portion where it's at the end, hey, do you by chance know someone who's considering selling in the neighborhood? No, I don't. I don't really want to talk about this. Like I have no interest. I can hear in his voice. At the end of the call, I do then ask, okay, well, you know what? I typically do these calls every 3 weeks. I'd love to. Would you mind if I add you to our list that we call, and I'll give you updates of what's going on in the market? With that being said, quarterly also you would do what's called annual reviews, give you an idea of what your property value is. Is that something of interest? They're going to tell me to fuck off, or if they're interested immediately, and then I can just have them go from there.
Right.
Yeah, everything's about the drip system. It's going to take about 7 touches in order to really get them where you want.
Yep.
So now you're here in Austin. We talked about how we got started. Appreciate you giving the tips and tricks. That's what we shoot for on the podcast. What's the plan now that you're here?
So me and my business partners, like I said earlier, we're building 300 houses in the next, 13 months. 64 houses in production, unlocked another 9 lots last week. So
Can we talk about zip codes at all, or is it still?
yeah, absolutely. So everything's within 15 minutes of downtown core.
Okay.
78751, 78704. We have houses from, a 450 all the way up to 1.5. So we have a huge wide array of price points. The ones in 450, we have 9 houses in Georgian Acres. Your 2-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,000 square feet for 450. So awesome entry level price point. We have 27 houses on Live Oak and Bolden Creek, starting at $899,000 for a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,600 square feet, and then our premier product there is a 2,200 foot, 3-story. Incredible home from 1.2 all the way up to 1.5. They're going to have full rooftop decks on the 4th floor with expansive views of downtown. So we're doing phase 1 pricing for that right now. So just getting the word out and telling people what we have going on is really important, because this phase 1 pricing is huge for us. And when I put on my listings, I say $200K discount, $60K discount, which is really true, because as we start pushing this product out, everybody who's locking in phase 1 is going to get a huge equity lift.
Fantastic. So for you, selling 300 homes, it's going to really be about the marketing.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, there's so many people that right now are saying, hey, it's the winter time, but we're starting to get ready. And I think, with interest rates where they are currently, there was a ton of people who got discouraged from the 2022 market that are just, what do you do when you get discouraged from the market? You rent, right? So you rent for 12 months, middle of this year, interest rates, you start hearing them coming down, they're inching down, but they're just not at the point where people are ready to just jump off the ledge. And so then you extend 6 months, and I think, spring 2025, everybody who's listening right now, if you are a buyer in the market, it is a perfect time to buy right now. I cannot stress that enough. Everybody wants what everybody else is going after too. So I just think right now we're still in that point where the buyer has power over the seller, and I think come spring 2025, we're going to get that push that we had, 2021, 2022.
I would love that.
Any fears?
You and me both.
Any fears or concerns that you have?
The beautiful part about what we have going is we're vertically integrated. So we, own the construction company. We are getting very creative with the land. We're buying in, 2, 3, 4 lot subdivisions, in some cases 6 lot subdivisions. So economies of scale, we're able to build a ton of density, up to 65% density now on 3 to a lot models. And so we're able to deliver our product at about 10% under any new construction in the area. So when it really comes down to it, we are very bullish on our product. We're very bullish on the price points that we are dealing in, and also the ability for us to just use our vertical integration to attractively price all of these homes out right now.
So no concerns, nothing to worry about.
I mean, there's always concerns, right? When you have $30 million of product out there,
right?
There's always something to be concerned about, but I just think it's all about in the perspective and thinking positively. And Austin has definitely undergone a correction. I think we have all seen that, and we all know that. But what goes down must come up. What goes up must come down. So
I get it.
There's obviously still a bunch of movement coming into Austin. We now have Elon that's moving all his companies here. So you get those 2,500, 3,000 people that are all making a ton of money from each company moving into Austin. They all want to be, downtown proper. So everything we're building is within 15 minutes of downtown. So, of course, with what happened to Austin over the last year, I think there's always going to be concerns. But I think we are kind of moving our way out of that. And obviously, with the Sitzer-Burnett case and all this buyer agent commission talk, the strong will survive. And so I think for agents like us, there's just a huge opportunity for us to just be able to advise our clients and push everybody in the right direction.
Right on.
I had a question that's blanked on it.
So the one thing I'll say is, I think it's really smart that you're doing the zip codes that you're doing, and Is there any, we talked about price points, and maybe you don't know the answer to this yet, but is there any kind of demographic that you're trying to identify with these, properties as far as the purchase is concerned? Is it families? Is it, is it business professionals? What are the ideas when you guys are building these homes?
Absolutely. So it's all very location dependent. Like Live Oak, for example, you might have that, a husband and wife, a spouse with a kid, maybe 2 kids, maybe a kid and 2 dogs. Maybe they loved the downtown location because of the vibrancy, but now we have 27 houses in Bolden Creek. You can walk to Congress, you're right off First. There's just so much vibrancy in the area, and you're still within striking distance of Zilker and, all the, Barton Creek and everything that you would already have downtown, just not as much of the congestion.
Yeah.
And I think before it was about, a safety thing because of the whole, COVID situation of not wanting it to be in a super densely populated area. But now it's about the lifestyle. So for like Live Oak, I think we're targeting people that, will still want to be close to downtown, but want a house. They want a yard. They want more space. And then for, say, like Georgian Acres, University Hills, those price points are in, low mid 4s to high 5s for 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,600 square feet, still within 15 minutes of downtown.
Yeah.
So that's an awesome location to be able to get more space in a price point, because a lot of people that I'm talking to are like, hey, we love this Live Oak project, but my client's budget's more in like the 500, 600. We can get really creative with financing. We're offering closing cost incentives. We're offering rate buy downs for our preferred lender. So we own the mortgage company as well. So we're really operating kind of from a full vertical perspective to be able to provide so much incentive for buyers. And then we have, 11 houses in Hyde Park, right on 45th and Depew.
That's a great area.
Yeah. So, or 47th and Depew, excuse me. And so, for that, it's about either somebody who's going to UT, somebody who's buying for their kid who goes to UT, or an investor that's thinking, they range from $500K for a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,100 square feet, all the way up to $829,000 for a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,600 square feet. So just from an investor profile, you're thinking these are going to rent for what, $1,500 a room? So $4,500 on a $750,000 to $800,000 investment. It checks out. So each location has a different demographic in mind, and I think that there's a way to market to each of those in a very strategic way.
There's a lot of these just, where you're sourcing the land. Those areas that you're talking about, pretty densely populated already. Are these things that you're purchasing homes and doing tear downs on, or, are you guys just getting lucky and sourcing, vacant property? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So we have a couple of like lead acquisition agents that are always out looking for us. They understand our product. We're able to get a ton of density on our lots. So we're getting creative with like, if we can get 3 houses on a lot, seller carry. You have a lot of developers that went through like the subdivision process in 2022 into 2023, but now it just doesn't make as much sense for them from a financial perspective to go and build on them. So we'll either partner with them, JV from them. They'll carry the land. We'll give them 35% up front, and then the rest on the balloon payment in the back once we exit. All day. When the market's incredible, it's great because you're exiting high, but it's also really hard to acquire. So right now where the market is, it's just a huge opportunity for us to go and acquire all these lots. You're talking about building 300 houses. If you're buying at the top of the market and then you have a correction, well, now you're standing there with 220 houses. What are we going to do? But for now, there's just so much opportunity to go out and acquire these. Our perfect play is like a half acre that was subdivided into 3 8,000-foot lots, and we go and we get 9 houses on it at 65% density. So, when you're doing the math there, they appraise way over what you're
sure, this is pretty sick.
Yeah, so
I like that.
So if it was a call to action to agents, what is it you're looking for?
Everything within 15 minutes of downtown. We love East Austin. We love Hyde Park, North Loop, obviously Bolden Creek, if we can get it at the price that we want. Really just if the lots are, 7, 8,000, 2, 3, 4 in a row, that's ideal. On the 27 houses we're building in Bolden Creek, that was 1.8 acres. That was originally 13 lots. Then the city came back and said, oh, this is actually, residential NEC zoning. And so now it's 6 lots, and we're kind of moving the pieces around. So
How quickly or slowly does, the city of Austin work is in regards to doing all the subdividing and everything along those lines? I mean, is there a lot of red tape, or is that really not your wheelhouse?
Well, we don't do any of the subdividing because we don't want to go through that process.
They find stuff and acquire stuff that's already been subdivided.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, but the subdivision process, depending on how many you're doing, is probably about, on the low end, 3 to 4 months, probably
6.
closer to 6. And then depending on how creative you're getting, sometimes it can be up to a year.
Depending who's involved.
Correct, exactly. So ideally, they're already subdivided. We're not, and ideally, there's nothing on the lot either, because the demo is going to take another month and a half to 2 months. But with the way we build, I mean, we're getting building permits in 2 weeks, and we're building the house in 2 months.
I got you. And then go ahead.
What's on MLS right now? What's going to be going on MLS? How do agents get a hold of you and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so right now on MLS, I have 2 houses on the what we call like the Pecan Drive subdivision. So I have one for $450 and one for $539. The $450 is a 2-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,000 square feet. The $539 is a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,600 foot plan. So we have 4 plans, and then some we add a garage, others we don't, depending on the density. For Live Oak and Bolden Creek, I have one on the market, which is $899 phase 1 pricing. That's our 1,600 foot model. I'm about to put on one of our 2,200 foot models at 1.2, and so that's also phase 1 pricing. That's at 400 West Live Oak, and those are going to go all the way up to 1.5. So awesome opportunity to get in there. And then also in Hyde Park, I have 2 on the market that are, and all also be open this weekend. So 4722 Clarkson, 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,600 feet at $829, and also we just put one in contract for $500. That's our 1,100 foot model. So now the next phase pricing is at $550. So that's just a great depiction of getting in early, getting instant equity, same product. And then also have one on Walnut Hills, which is in like University Hills area, full views, $579,000. So we have kind of, the idea is to get one variety of each model out, and then in the next day or 2, I'll be putting on 6 more on Little John, West Oak, and then West 10th. So Barton Hills area, all awesome.
I'm going to assume you have a TC helping with this stuff.
Yeah, so I'm funny enough, yeah, I actually have my TC from back home, who is like a rock star. She's like my TC assistant, but I'm basically like, Kim, things are heating up over here. You might want to relocate. So she's like my right-hand woman. And before I was kind of like, doing it by myself. And then obviously I didn't even have a license when I got here, so I wasn't part of a brokerage. And then EXP comes along, and compliance comes, and they need sky slope and this and that. Well, I don't do any of that. So yeah, the TC is imperative to the business running.
And then it's eventually you're gonna have enough going on. You're probably gonna need someone else. She's gonna need an assistant probably. Are you there yet?
Yeah. So like kind of 50-50. Okay. So right now I have 13 houses on the market, putting on another 6 in probably the next couple days. The idea is probably to wait after the new year, because that's when everybody's going to get back in, and we don't want to stale out for 10 days. But everything's drafted, ready to go, and I mean, ultimately it's going to be, I'll be the lead disposition agent, and then I hired out 2 kind of other agents that are going to be helping with sign calls and sales office calls and everything like that. So we have a sales office that we're building out that's like our Haven Plus model on Live Oak. And so it was 6 buildings, and I repurposed one of them and turned it into a sales office, kind of like Leland has over there on Congress. So we're really excited for that. We'll be doing a ton of fun events and barbecues and just spreading the word about our product and just getting as much client-facing activity as we can.
Love. Broker opens, doing any of that stuff?
Not yet.
Okay.
For just to be frank, the one on Clarkson is the first one that we've gotten the landscaping up, and fencing is going up right now. So I'm a true believer in being able to get the first impression, getting the product out there for like a broker open. So we're really excited with what we have going. We've built a ton in Austin, but it's been more single family model. So now with the 3 to a lot model, we've completely pivoted to doing all 3 to a lot model. We're not doing anything else but that. So it's not like this is our first house that we've completed. It's just in this new initiative, we are the first to go on it, and we're really excited.
How many competitors do you think you have, or how many other developers / builders do you think that are out there that are doing the exact same thing you guys are doing?
I mean, I was reading an article that said there's 264 permits out since the home initiative was passed, and we have 64 of those. So I would imagine that we're definitely the biggest infill developer out there right now from like a smaller scale that's not a KB Home, Lennar, et cetera. But I would imagine there's plenty out there that are maybe doing, 10, 12 and kind of more like mom and pop. Mm-hmm. But at our scale, I wouldn't imagine there's too many more people other than maybe like a Homebound or something like that.
Yeah. And then how big is the actual team? So everything's vertical for you guys. So you got yourself, you have lending. Shit, do you have title?
Of course.
It's funny because we do have title.
Do you really?
Yeah. But
that's bigger than most of it. You have to have title.
Yeah, we have title, but we use Ashley Colgan of TNT because that's David's favorite, and she's creative and she's smart, and so even though we have title, we still use her. So she's awesome. Shout out to Ashley. Yeah. But the team is David Laver, Aaron Amuchastegui. I'm sure you know. Definitely Aaron. He's huge. He runs the Real Estate Rockstars podcast, and then David also is huge in the area. So just two brilliant minds. Shout out to them. I owe a lot of this to them. They are my mentors. And then we have about 12 people on the construction team, and I would imagine that's going to triple by the next month or two. So on the team, there's about 20 of us, but then also you have construction and everyone behind the scenes too.
I got you. When you're talking about the 3 to a lot model, just for everybody who's listening, I mean, how is that typically arranged, if you will? You've got 3 units to a lot. How are you guys? I've seen them front and back. I've seen them 1, 2, 3. How are you guys mainly doing them, or is it different every time?
Absolutely. So great question. So I would say more often than not, you're going to have like a rectangular lot like this, and you'll have like 1 in the front, you'll have parking here, and then you'll have 2 in the back.
Okay.
So usually more in like an L shape.
Mm-hmm.
But just depending on the density, like in Hyde Park, for example, we have a few properties that are technically connected from the city's perspective. So if you're looking at the site plan from aerial, they're connected units, but they're only connected at the roof line. So you get questions about, hey, fireproofing, soundproofing, this is a concern, but there's still a 3-inch air gap in between the homes. And so it's a way for you to be able to get the density on the lot, and they're technically connected, but they're not like smack down right next to each other like you might experience in San Francisco.
They're not sharing a wall, but it's freaking close.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
You just get to be really close with them.
Yeah.
So.
Is there any pushback on that?
You get questions about it significantly, but the brilliant part about it is if a unit is connected, it's typically about 5 to 7% less on the price. So everybody, of course, if you're price conscious, then it's an awesome opportunity. Like for the ones on Depew, we put in one in contract that's a connected 3-bed, 2-bath next to one of our 1,600-foot models, and it's kind of zigzagged. And that one was $499, but then the one that's disconnected and everyone has its own yard and parking, but the one that's disconnected is $550. So when you're really talking about a 10% jump. Some people would prefer and say, hey, I'm living in a condo right now. If I can save $50K just because I'm connected at a roof line with a house, the way that we condo regime them, you don't share the land with the other two owners. And so everybody has their own APN. Everybody has their own condo map. And so it's
So it's a single family / common?
correct.
Okay.
So
What happens when someone doesn't want to paint the house?
so technically there is an HOA, but we manage it. So the city requires you to condo map them with an HOA, but there's not going to be any fee. Everyone's going to have their own jurisdiction to do what they want with their house. They're going to have their own plot of land that they're responsible for taking care of. And so I get that question a lot too.
I just always worry about what if one of the neighbors just decides that they want to turn just not take care of it. And it's like, that'll crush the value of my property.
Well, everybody is going to have their own fenced off yard.
Okay.
So it would just be like if you're buying in a townhouse row.
Got it.
Same exact scenario. If somebody 3 doors down doesn't want to take care of their backyard, doesn't have any effect on you. You're not seeing it. Nobody else is either.
Got it.
But it's not like a common interest scenario of like my land value. So I still own my land once I purchase it. I just have a single family house common based off of the condo regime of how it was developed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's really just a parking area that's kind of common. That's about it.
No common. That's private too.
Private too. Driveways. It just sometimes they're not directly in front of the house. They might be set off to the side. So ultimately, it's for property tax purposes. So there's not this sort of volatile discrepancy of, oh, how much do I own? How much do you own? So everything is condo mapped to the square footage. You'll have your own square footage map and everything. So it's the same as if you were buying a townhouse.
Having separate APNs is huge.
Exactly, because you can condo map them one of two ways. You can condo map them all in one as one piece of land and then shared ownership for the land and you own your structure. Or you can condo map them, which obviously is more expensive on our end. But with how many questions you get and with the scale that we're building at currently, going that one extra step is vital for people because they want to make sure that they're protected and they have ownership of their own piece of land.
I'd love to be there for the Brokers Open. I want to check these places out.
Absolutely. You're welcome whenever.
On the marketing side, what are you doing right now?
So a lot of e-blasting right now, a lot of aerial photography. To be honest with you, right now is one of those moments where it's just like go, get the houses built, and then build out these subdivisions, and then I'm going to go a lot of like the event collateral route, building out the sales office. I know my business partners probably don't think I'm doing enough marketing.
Okay.
But talking to agents and just getting the word out there, reverse prospecting, calling around agents that have sold in the area and just explaining what the $200K discount might mean. Because when you're looking at our listings, a majority of them we use finished photos of the product. And so you'll get calls and say, hey, I want to go show 4706 Clarkson tomorrow. Well, it's not built yet, right? So the idea is finished photos present themselves really nicely, but also sometimes they can send a mixed message.
Yep.
Because it's, but it's going to move in. We're going to be ready for move in by March, and you might drive by the subdivision and think, oh, well, there's 2 houses done, and I see 9 other foundations. So does that mean I'm going to be around construction for a year? But we're going to have them all done by March because of how quickly we move. So that's another piece of the marketing and the messaging. So it's just a lot of transparency and having conversations. And, obviously wintertime's a slower time of year, and we're getting all of our ducks in a row right now. And, 64 houses in production.
I think it'd be really cool if you had let's just brainstorm, YouTube channel, and you have walkthroughs of each of them. You have your different floor plans. Here's what the different floor plan is. Sure, this one might be in Hyde Park, but the one I'm showing right now is in Live Oak, whatever it might be, right? And say, if you want to know what this is going to look like, here's a finished product of what it looks like. We may have a different color palette this one, but take a peek at this video. And then I just think that's going to be like super fast sales for me if you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of it is going to come down to like the video marketing. And I have renderings of each, but I really don't think renderings paint the right picture of like the quality of the product. And so that's been like some of the reservation is like build out this whole marketing platform on, just renderings and walkthroughs. And because I knew we were going to have a couple completed pretty soon, right now is pretty much like pedal to the metal and getting everything going on the marketing. So I'm really excited for that.
Right on.
Well, if you ever want to kick ideas, let me know.
Let's do it.
What else do we need to know?
I mean, we can talk a little bit about I know that you guys are catering to agents, newer agents, seasoned agents. I mean, I had my dad in the business for 50 years, but just starting from scratch, if you guys want to kind of go over a couple questions about if you're a new agent, what are you doing? What's important? Obviously, being very direct on what you want is super important because you get a lot of people that are in tech, and I'm 33, coming from Silicon Valley. I get a lot of friends who are in tech, and they're always exploring and oh, real estate seems so great, it seems so fun. Can we talk more? Well, it's taken 10 years to get to this point, and my first 2 years, I lived at home with my parents. All my friends were out and partying in San Francisco, living the high life, and I'm sitting here is there light at the end of the tunnel? Is this ever going to work? So I just think understanding that it's not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out business. I mean, it is full on. You're going to have to work 70, 80 hours your first year and a half just to get deals if you want to be successful. And then finding the right mentor. I mean, finding the right team is really important. And that doesn't mean find a team with 9 agents and 1 lead agent. That means find 1 lead agent that you can go and absorb everything you possibly can. And you might even be working for free for the first 6 months. But that is going to catapult you to a whole new level versus somebody that's just kind of trying to figure it out on their own, because going and getting the business is one thing, and it is not easy. And I think Matt will tell you it's not easy.
For sure.
But then once you get the business, what do you do? What do you say? What's the next step? So there's so many components to being successful in this business, and just having the right mentorship is just, I can't express how vital it is.
So you get a lot of people that are in tech that say they want to dabble in real estate?
Well, think about it, right? So the way tech works is you start out, you're a sales development representative, so you're cold calling all day.
Yep.
And then you get your chance to be an AE. And then who knows? I mean, I know people that are AEs for 20 years, and your cap is probably...
That's how I started.
Right, there you go. And your cap's probably especially back home, maybe 250, 300 if you're having a really good year. Well, your ceiling is exponential. I mean, it's boundless in real estate. So
I see.
It's one of those things where it's once you become young 30s, you're trying to sit there. You're okay, well, am I going to be a VP of sales, or am I going to be doing this all the time? Well, there's not that many VPs of sales. So you kind of reach that level where you're all right, I'm at this ceiling, and how am I going to push past that? Because, and so then you start getting a lot of exploratory calls of oh, well, it seems like you're doing really well, and you have, flexibility, and you can do what you want, travel, and
Yeah, that's what you see. That's what you see.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
that's what it looks like, and it's not that way at all. But that's why I think it's the timeline of just
gotcha.
right now, and I'm always open for conversation, because I think that's the beautiful part about this business is we take pride in how much work we knew it took to get to this place.
Sure.
And I'm basically reinventing myself here,
Yeah.
Back in the Bay, it's hard to get business. It's easy to sell it. Here, it's easy to get business, and it's a little more difficult to sell it. So I feel like a brand new agent again.
I got to ask, because it's not going to be representative of your knowledge. What's your license number?
829-408.
Yeah. And then why did you choose EXP? I have to ask it.
Yeah. Shout out to Sean Fuentes, Brian Copeland, and Elizabeth Riley. It's funny because when I was looking for brokerages, my partner, David, obviously the benefit of a brokerage to him is in new development support. And so, we looked at Compass, they have the new development group. We looked at Douglas Elliman, they have the new development group. But I came here in order to be the lead agent, sell all the properties. And so it really came down, but obviously EXP from an agent perspective, I think has the most beneficial value, both on the cap structure, both on the tools, the support that you get. And obviously they don't provide an office, but I already have an office. So I didn't need an office. I don't need support. I've already been in the business for 10 years. So it just was a really great fit for me. But we needed to solve that piece of the new development support. Because you guys are building out your new development brand right now. And then they connected us with Chat Win, who's doing a lot of amazing things. He's been in the business for 20 years, focused primarily on new development sales. And he has the VU project up about 20 minutes north. And so just really doing this exploratory, like peeling back the onion on what does the brokerage mean and what's important to me, but also what's going to sell as a benefit to the success of the entire group and brand and development company. So,
So who was your sponsor directly? Was it Brian?
Sean.
Sean.
Yeah.
Love Sean.
Yeah, Sean's the man.
Do you ever jump on the call in the morning with John Dietz at 8 o'clock?
Well, he just sent me the invitation today, so
Look at that.
so I'll be jumping on. But
So good. Sean cracks me up. 'Cause we'll start the call every morning, so John will hop on, and then you just hear Sean, good morning.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously Brian is a huge mentor of mine too. I mean, that guy is just an animal. I know you guys just had him on, but just so even keeled and cool and just like willing to help. And I think that's the beautiful part about EXP for anybody that's thinking about joining. Just everybody has a piece of ownership of the company, and that's not why they help you, but that's just like the moniker that they instill in everybody is just like, don't do it because of you're going to gain something out of it. Do it because we're all family and everybody is working towards one common goal to be successful. And I actually am still a part of Intero back home in California, so I'm not full EXP. I love Intero too, so I don't want to say
around that one.
What?
How'd you get around that?
Because I have 300 listings coming in the next year.
Right.
So
Fair.
Yeah, that makes people
got a trial run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
enough.
Leo.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I typically tell when we talk about new agents, I mean, you're looking at I like the number that you gave. I mean, 18 months is usually about the soonest I can see somebody become really successful. I've seen agents, you take about almost 3 years if they're really just kind of doing it slowly and organically and everything along those lines. So it is always interesting to hear somebody coming from a different sales organization saying, hey, what about real estate? It's like, you're ready to be broke and work really hard for 12 to 18 months?
Exactly. And it's incredible to see because obviously we're always like digesting all of these real estate podcasts and highlighting agents and what they're doing is something huge, especially for you guys where it's like, you have the podcast here, but you hear about some of these people that just took this leap of faith and they got, 2, 3 kids and a wife and a family. And they're just like, oh, I just wasn't happy. And obviously when your back is against the wall like that, the timeline could be pushed into like a year, but still, I mean, you got to make sure that you have your savings ready to go. And
sure.
You understand the implications of what it's going to take. And, it's impressive. I mean, this business just never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah.
Agreed. We had very different ways that we started. I like yours more.
I want to hear yours still.
So I played professional golf for 7 years, and I did both golf and real estate at the same time. But before that was in tech, and it was in AE for 4 years. And finally at the same point, like, okay, I'm capped. Like, how do I get more out of financials than what I do now?
See?
So exactly. And I was like, real estate's got unlimited potential. Let's go do that. But I have this dream and I want to pursue, and it's playing professional golf at the highest level possible on the PGA Tour. Never made the PGA Tour. Had some Corn Ferry stuff going. Got married, had a kid. I was like, all right, time to put it up. Love my family too much. Done traveling. I actually love my career in real estate almost more than I loved playing golf. And there'd be so many times on the road where I was like, okay, what do I have real estate wise? Oh, fuck, what? Stop thinking about that. We had to focus on golf. And I was like, you know what? We're done. Like, we need to just focus on real estate and really accelerate our career. But at the same time, I was not door knocking. I was not doing cold calls. I went straight down the rabbit hole of partnering. I say partnering, it's not even partner. Paying for a shitload of Zillow leads. And I had a huge budget with this guy.
Yeah.
That's how I first started. And I have to be appreciative of what we did together too, because I built a client base from it. So my first year in real estate, I was actually able to close $16.5 million.
That's huge.
But then
Austin.
in Austin, did it at the right time. Was 2018, 2019, around there. And was able to just have a great year first year. Sure, I had a shitload of high expenses, and I took a huge leap of faith. No, I was not the agent who had a shitload of savings either. It's like, all right, here we go. And thank God it worked out, and have kind of had a consistent of business plan with where we've had lead spend, where we go on and we go off, or we increase, decrease, and kind of play the game with based on how the market is and how it's performing. And we've always been on the standpoint of like, all right, let's pay for leads when the market's really good. Let's back off leads when they're not as good, when it's not as hot and there's not as many transactions, and really rely on our relationships at that standpoint. But at the same time, when the market's really hot, also relying on relationships and having leads, and basically just getting as high activity possible through a pipeline. So that's where ours came from. But now that that's what I can say. I'm trying to lean off the tit as best I possibly can from Zillow and leads and everything else. There's so many different ways of like, yours was great. Didn't hear it from you. It's like, I was door knocking and I was going through and I was providing value with flyers. I was like, no one here does that. Like, or at least no one's knocked to my door and done that. Or I've never seen it in different neighborhoods, or have agents that I know or talk to that have done that. And maybe it's because Texas is just so much larger. I don't know. But I'm totally open to go and do it and find, like, let's say 1,000 person farm or 1,000 house farm, focus on that, build a plan around it, and say, hey guys, I'm going to go commit to this. I'm going to do it for 18 months. I'm going to do it every 2 weeks. I'm going to plan 3 days a week of those 2 weeks to go do it and go from it. But when I kind of look at all this stuff and how you kind of talk about it, there has to be a plan in place on how you're going to do it. And it's not just like a wing it, go do it. Like, there's a plan you have to commit to, which is what I had a plan to commit with the leads and everything else. We didn't just wing it. We had a follow-up systems built. We had CRM. We had lender who was coming through and ready to act ASAP. He takes calls at whatever fucking time I want him to take calls.
Yeah, you got to do it.
And it just having a team in place to be able to do things like that is beyond crucial, and having the plan in place.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely open. Like, I'm always looking to grow and evolve my business into a way that I possibly to make it better and expand and make more money and however I want to do it. And I appreciate you sharing all that stuff today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you touched on something really important. It's that no one else is doing it. Usually if no one else is doing something, it's probably going to be successful if you're consistent with it, right?
Yeah.
Back home, I would say no one else was really door knocking, but that's just because in the price points that I was at when I first started, the agents that were selling in my market didn't have to, because they're doing 100, 150, 200, sometimes 500 million in sales. So they're sending these brochures. They have a $7 million marketing budget. I mean, my top 4 competitors were top 10 teams in the entire country.
Right.
So when you talk about going for listings and they say, hey, we're going to put you on TV for the NBA finals, I mean, it's a little hard to compete with that in certain cases, but it also doesn't work for everybody. Not every seller wants that.
Yep.
You know, some people are more reserved and low key, and they just go off the vibe and the energy that they attract, and they want someone that they can be able to call. Sometimes you're not going to be as client facing if you have a ton of business like that. So, you know, just taking inventory of what your style is and what you're going to feel most comfortable doing is the most important. Some people are better on the phone. They don't want to be seen. Some people are better at SEO marketing and how they drive traffic and targeting and all that. And, or, you know, a YouTube video where they just use AI and don't even have to be on it, but they're adding value in certain ways where you're going to get calls and the phone is going to ring. So obviously, the more client-facing, the more impressions you're going to make. You know, it's a numbers game. So whether you're calling, whether you're flyer dropping to start with, whether you're door knocking, whether you're doing events, whether you're doing fundraising, whether you're joining a pickleball club, I mean, you name it, there's ways out there to get business. It's about having the organic conversations with people and not always leading with real estate. The more people you know, I mean, if you go to a pickleball tournament, you're not handing out your business card right away. You're you're attracting people to you as a person, and then eventually they're going to say, "Oh, I saw your Instagram post, or I saw your Facebook post, and you sold this house, or you were doing an open house. Like, I'm really curious. You know, we're in the market to buy. We're in the market to sell. What's our house worth?" I mean, it's about segueing the conversation into real estate organically, because you want to be attracting the business to you. You don't want to be pushing the business on other people.
Yeah. I'll go back to that exact same point. So like, our team name is Lone Wolf Realty Group. Lone Wolf came from, do you play golf?
Yep.
Okay. You know Wolf?
Yep.
Okay, so I was at a DGen that would go loan. Okay, that's where the name came from. So instead of it calling it Kemps Real Estate Group, we just called it Lone Wolf Realty Group. So anyways, now that's the brand. So all my buddies now call me Wolf or Lone Wolf, whatever it is, right? So like we'll be in like a group setting or something, or we'll have like maybe 20 guys that are going to go play golf, and we have like a little tournament format. However you want to do it, right? I'll roll up to the course, and like it is so obnoxious, but they do it every fucking time. I'll get out of my car, I'll have like just bag on my shoulder, and then every single one will go, oh, like with the branding for it, like they do it organically for me is fucking phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
So like I just embrace it. I'm just like, this is fucking awesome.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. But back to your point of building those relationships with everyone, like I didn't go dump real estate onto every single one of them. Like it was, we play golf, that is our thing. We go out and do our thing, but they know it's called Lone Wolf Realty Group, and they know like maybe it's conscious, maybe subconscious. I don't know how they look at it, but they know every time they do the small of 3-second howl that everyone around them is like, what the fuck's going on? And someone's going to ask them, say, oh, his team name is Lone Wolf Realty Group. He's a real estate agent, sells up in North Austin or West Austin or wherever it might be. And like that is now just a conversation that happens, and I couldn't be more appreciative of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the best marketing is the marketing that somebody else is doing for you organically, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
It's been a common theme on the podcast over like the last month. You know, again, going back to Matt talking about leads should always be supplemental, right? I mean, there are definitely times when it's good to purchase leads, and the irony that I find is that once the market is going well, that's usually when agents back off and beat their chest about their sphere of influence, that they're closing a bunch of deals, and that's usually when we double down on the marketing and we don't try to like stay away from the organic business that's coming in, but we're capitalizing on the fact that there are people without real estate agent relationships that are reaching out. But with things being, a little bit slower, we're focusing mainly on, spheres of influence. And when we talk to other agents, just for coaching and things along those lines, I'm astonished at the amount of agents that don't seem to understand the idea of how important it is that you cannot, we buy and sell homes for people, right? So it's like, how many people do you know? And I'm always shocked at the amount of people that will say things like, oh, I focus on my sphere of influence, but when you have conversations about what they do and who they know, that sphere is very, very small.
It's like 6 people.
Right. And then you'll also hear sometimes like the hate where it's like, oh, so-and-so does so much business because she or he knows so many people, and, they're just, and it's like, well, okay, how do you go about meeting new people? So to your point, like you said, like pickleball, or, I'm always very, very good at like really tapping into my clients' sphere of influence. I legitimately make friends with I'd say the 20 to 30% of my friends, because I also moved here. I moved here from Ohio 5 years ago to capitalize on the Austin market. So I know exactly what you're going through. And I'd say 20 to 30% of my friends are past clients or friends of past clients. I'm like the guy who's borderline cringe, where I'm like, what are you doing this weekend? Like, I'll just call people and I'll ask.
This is a guy who, like, let's say you two are having a conversation. I'm gonna be him for a second. Hey, so we're going over to. You guys are talking. You're saying like, oh, hey, we're going over to, Unbelievable. Okay, we're going to Unbelievable this weekend. Matt, you guys mind if I join?
I'll do that.
Well, the beautiful part about your position is we're talking to buyers and sellers who don't want to talk to us, but you get to talk to agents to get the business, and they're used to it.
Right.
So,
well,
like,
and it's not just the agents. I mean, I'm going out with people in general, because typically what I find is like 80% of the people who are not in the industry, they know an agent, right?
Yeah.
So it's always a good organic kind of referral when I'm like, hey, because people start to ask about, everybody wants to know what rates are and everything along those lines. And, I'm willing to give value and kind of have that conversation. But typically it's like, if you were to buy or sell a home, like, who would you be using as your real estate agent? Mm-hmm. And so it's easier for me to make a phone call and say, hey, Trevor, Matt Kirschling, Gold Star, I just wanted to reach out, and I've got a few things I wanted to run past you. I was actually out the other evening with your buddy,
John,
Robert, whatever.
Yeah.
He said that you were his go-to as far as an agent if you were to ever buy and sell. You're much more likely to connect with me, or at the very least not tell me to fuck off when I mention Robert's name, who's your buddy, or your past client, right? So,
because it makes them feel good too. I mean, it's just that.
they're like, oh, thank God they didn't fire me.
Right. And again, I mean, there's always that 20% of people who might not have an agent, right? So it's, good for me to kind of be able to, try to say, hey, I know people if you ever want to have a conversation. So, but the point I'm trying to make is like, it typically never even starts that way. I mean, this is after I've gotten to know people for a while, and the way that I have legitimately grown my sphere of influence is through what I think a lot of people think is really cringy, right? And it's just saying, hey, like, what are you up to this weekend? And it's like, oh, we're going to check out this, live act at insert, at Moody Theater.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool.
Honestly, I just thought of this too. Hey, it's like I'm acting as you. Hey, Robert, I know you haven't done your quarterly or annual review, but I was actually just with your client, and
Yeah.
like they're still planning on using you. You probably should call them.
Right.
I do those things. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been doing this long enough, and I'm at a point where like, no one has ever like gotten mad when I'm like, what?
All they can say is no.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going. It's not like you're going. You're not like, it's my brother's birthday, and I'm like, can I join you? Like, is that at his house? Like, it's not like
The
that.
engagement.
Right? Like, it's
Can I
not
come
like
to your
that.
2-year-old's birthday party?
Oh, you're going to a wedding? Can I be your plus one? Like, I'm not that cringy.
I'm sure you've done that.
Although I was going to say I'm not. I wouldn't put it past me. But yeah, I mean, it's like people go out, they do things, and like one of the things that I identified is like I don't have kids. Is like a big bar goer, right? Like if I'm with like more than 6 people, I'll never really even want to go out to like a bar, because what do you do when you're with a group of 6? You basically just like put yourself in the corner, and then the 6 of you like interact. You're not going to meet anybody when you're like with the 6 pack of people. It's just too many people, right?
Yeah.
And so that's like, again, I'll go out when it's just like me and my partner and all of that kind of stuff, and we'll always make friends. And that's just constantly top of mind for me. Like, how can I get in front of as many people as I can with the true intention of just like making friends? I like talking to people. I like having friends. But more importantly, you can't sell homes to people that if you don't know anyone.
Or if they don't trust you or like you, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Otherwise, then you're just doing leads. And just like before we got on this, the guy who's going to go with another company for like $1,500 extra, I told him straight up, I said, you know what, I'll put this on myself. Like, I was unable to get in front of this individual in person, which is not like me. I do all of my follow-ups and everything, but it was just purely transactional. And when you have those transactional relationships, you can't expect somebody to really give a shit about, because you could say, oh, I didn't provide enough value.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Right? Like, I am a complete commodity to this client.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, well, what are you going to do for me? It's like, got it. Good luck.
Exactly.
My favorite one was at the Texas State game, and the guy, you're like, hey, look me up on Google.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, oh, you're famous. I literally just found you on Google.
That's the beautiful part about having enough business where you have the law of attraction, right?
Yeah.
You can work with the clients you want to, and when you first start out, it's about just doing the business because the business is there and it's life or death. Mm-hmm. But then as time goes on, you get to choose the clients you work with. And it's funny that you say that, because I went to Bali by myself, and people would consider me an extrovert, but I think deep down I'm actually introverted.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah, it's kind of true though, because it's
I've
funny.
heard
Like,
that on this podcast like over 12 times.
Well, I'll never go sit down at a bar or a restaurant by myself. Like, I will not.
You're not
do
there
it.
yet.
I
See, you're only 33. You wait. It's
exactly.
coming.
That's like my favorite thing to do.
Really?
Yeah.
I know.
do it all
Some
the
of my
time.
friends. See, I wish I had that in me. I just don't.
You just got to do it. Get uncomfortable, bro.
I know. I tried.
you're
That's
not-
why I moved here.
You're not grown if you ain't comfortable.
I know exactly. But yeah, going to Bali by myself, it's like you are 5,000 miles away and you don't know anybody. So, and it ended up being the best experience of my life. And back in San Francisco, I DJ'd all the main clubs through all the main events. And if you're a Bargo, I'm playing the Betty. Austin debuted tonight, actually.
I'll be there.
Perfect. Let's do it.
I'm dead serious. I will be there because I legitimately, it's right there on Rio Grande.
Yep.
I was looking at it and I was going to surprise my girl because I have a 5 o'clock appointment and then we're going to go down there. They do a lot of nice mixed drinks.
Yep.
So it's already in the mix.
Let me
It's
get
really
a-
weird that you mentioned that place. I'm dead serious.
Shout out to Betty.
Let me get a hall pass from the wifey. I'll try to join.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
go. I love that.
Well,
See?
cool. We're gonna end it on that one.
Perfect.
Again, my name is Matthew Kemps. I'm the co-founder of Lone Wolf Realty Group at EXP Realty.
Matt Kirschling with Gold Star Mortgage.
Trevor Loveless Property Group, EXP Realty. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you having me.